Let us now understand how is loss from profits and gains of business and profession set off. This is basically dealt with in section 72, and for the clarification of doubt, let me tell you that what we are talking about in this particular video is the non-speculation loss, because the speculation loss can be set off only against the profits of speculative business. And this is also not applicable for the carry forward of depreciation, because that is separately governed by section 32. So excluding those two things, if the non-speculation loss is there, which excludes unabsorbed depreciation, then that can be carried forward and set off against. So first you compute the income under the head PGBP. You take all the businesses together, which are in non-speculative in nature. If after aggregating the income of all the businesses together, you arrive at a position where there is a loss, then such loss is allowed to be carried forward and set off in future years. Okay, but the condition is that the loss can be set off only against the income under the head PGBP in the subsequent assessment year. So what does this mean? Just like I had explained to you in the concept of house property, during the same year you have the flexibility to set this off against other incomes. Okay, but once you cross that limit of a particular year, then in the subsequent year it can be set off only against the income under the head PGBP. You can't set it off against house property, or you can't set it off against capital loss or other incomes. Capital gain, or other incomes. Now, once you start computing your business income, it may just happen that the losses which are brought forward from the earlier years might be huge in quantum. Okay, so let me take you an example to clarify this. Now, what may happen is, let's say you have brought forward loss of 500,000 from assessment year 2011-2012. Now what happens is that the carry forward of this loss is allowed only for 8 assessment years. So the loss of 11-12, let's say, can be carried forward up to 2019-2020. If you are unable to set this off, let's mark it as negative, then this will lapse. So it's always the endeavor of the assessee that I should first set off this particular loss to the extent possible and as early as possible. Why? Because if I don't do that, then this loss might just go waste. Now in this endeavor to set this off, this loss, as early as possible, you would always want that the losses which you have incurred earlier or in year 1 are set off first. To take care of such a situation, the law specifically provides that while you are computing your income under the head profits and gains of business and profession, the order of set off of various kinds of losses is as under. So let's say you start with your profit as per profit and loss account. Okay, profit, let's say 100,000. You reduce all the expenses, let's say 50,000. Okay, and you're left with a net income of 50,000. Now against this income, you will start setting off in the following order. Current year capital expenditure on scientific research. So if there is a current year expenditure, obviously you do that first. So if you notice, both these are current year expenditures. So the priority is given to the current year expenditure first. Then you set off current year depreciation. Okay. Even after doing these set off, if you are still left with sub income, let's say the sum total of these two was 10,000. Okay. So you're left with an income of 40 lakh. Then you will see what's the brought forward business loss that you have. You will first set that off against this 40,000. Then any unabsorbed capital expenditure on promotion of family planning. So if there was some kind of a expenditure which you had incurred on your employees for the promotion of family planning amongst them, which was of capital in nature and which could not be claimed in last year, you set it off first. Then unabsorbed depreciation, and finally unabsorbed scientific research expenditure. If after consuming, let's say, 4 of the first one, there is nothing which is left behind, then the balance 2 will be carried forward in subsequent years. Again, as I said, this is only for the purpose of determining the order. Set off of unabsorbed depreciation is governed by a separate section, which we will see separately. And the last point, carry forward of non-speculation loss is permissible for 8 assessment years immediately succeeding the assessment year for which the loss was first computed. Just like we discussed in the case of house property, this is also allowed to be carried forward only for 8 assessment years.